welcome to Travel Bits. I am your host, Bonnie Quartermanch of Bonnie's Travel, a home-based travel agency here in Seekonk. I would like to welcome back my special guests, Krystal and Adam. They've been sharing, this is part 4 of our series on their fantastic 14-day trip to Asia, their cruise to Asia. We're going to continue on with more of what they saw and did in country. Their next stop along the way was Seoul, Korea. So let's see what we have for pictures.
So Seoul is beautiful. We had one day in Seoul, unfortunately, but one of the amazing things about this city is that it is such a contrast of the new and the old. So this is actually a Buddhist temple that is smack dab in the middle of the city.
It's beautiful.
We found it by accident too.
Yeah, like everything else, all the fun parts of our trip, it was completely found by accident. This isn't even the entire garden. There's so much more to it. But the temple just, again, it sits there, and if you can kind of see it in the background, it's just surrounded by skyscrapers.
Okay.
But
so it's a little oasis inside of a big city.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the architecture was phenomenal. I mean, we stood there in awe with the flowers and what they did around, but then when you came up to the actual Buddhist temple, I think that's when we were just in awe.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it was just this constant flow of people in and out too. Mm-hmm. Like for them, this is just normal and it's just part of their daily life. But for us, it was like we would never see this in the U.S. Like we're so used to we'll demolish the old to build way for the new.
Right. Yes.
But it's just there's such a respect for the culture, for the old, for the history of it all. That
Great.
So amongst other walkabouts that we've done, we actually just came upon this. It's kind of like a mall. Okay. And the walkway actually heads up in a spiral. So there's not really stairs between levels. It's just kind of like a giant spiral up. And I know Krystal's favorite place was at the top floor.
They had a cafe that theme was poop, and I just fell in love with it. The cups were toilet bowls. The food was like French toast but it's shaped in poop. It was really funny. And
I think there's a picture of the toilet cup.
It should be there. It was one of the most hilarious things. I was cracking up, and Adam was just like, "Okay, I'm ready to go to the next spot." And I'm like, "No, we need to take more pictures and order more food. This is the best experience of my life. I've been waiting to see one of these. I see them on Facebook all the time." So just actually living through that. But that mall was really cute. Lots of kids running through
there it is right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's his food and there's my coffee. I'm obsessed with coffee. It was a rose flavored coffee, which made me even happier. Again, you can see in my face just pure happiness. I don't think I could have gotten any happier in that moment, but that was one of my favorite moments on the trips too.
Now, is this where they put the ice cream in your coffee, like you had mentioned? No,
that was in Beijing in the flight, like in the airline. But this was totally different. The coffee was great, and it was a good theme, so it was fun. This was my spot.
But just kind of like I said before, that juxtaposition of just old and new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good representation of that right there.
That was actually, I think that's the top floor of the mall. There just happens to be this they have windows that view out to the city. But I thought it was just, again, for me being Korean, it was just kind of like, oh, this is where I'm from. Like this is where my ancestors are from.
Yeah.
And I loved that. Also, if you're gonna go to Seoul, shopping is a must.
Okay.
So this is Myeongdong. It is the big, most would say touristy shopping destination, but if you're interested in Korean skincare, if you're interested in Korean fashion, if you are interested in kind of the mainstream of what's kind of hip in Korea, this is where you go.
Okay.
So while we were here, I know that I picked up a bunch of face masks to bring back. My favorite lip balm I actually picked up. You can see the store right there. It's Tony Moly. My favorite lip balm from there. It's truly a sight to behold. And at night when the sun starts to go down, food vendors come out, and so like you can actually grab like
Street
a late night
food.
snack
Oh.
while like all just
Like
a
Times
walk
Square in
away.
New
It's
York.
fantastic.
Yes.
Except it's cleaner.
Cleaner.
Yes, Korea was
Definitely.
very clean.
It was beautiful too.
After Seoul, we went to Shimizu.
Shimizu.
So for us, this was like the port is in Shimizu. This was billed to us as Mount Fuji.
Okay.
So
Wow.
one of the things that we did for this stop, because it was kind of more of a rural part of Japan, and one that we weren't super familiar with, we did actually book the excursion through the cruise ship for this one. So this excursion brought us to Shiraito Falls, which is right here.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think it's
Stunning.
it's truly stunning. And I want to say Shiraito means like lace or something like that.
Okay.
And it's because of the way that the waterfalls fell, they kind of mimic lace.
It's gorgeous.
But Shiraito Falls was beautiful.
Oh, and there's Mount Fuji.
There is Mount Fuji again. Mount Fuji, it's just one of those natural sites that
It's iconic.
it really is.
Yes.
It truly is iconic.
Because as I was looking through your pictures ahead of time, it's just like I didn't have to guess what that was. It's just like, well,
You know
I'm
it.
pretty sure this is Mount Fuji.
Yeah, and I know Krystal mentioned in a previous episode, but we got so lucky to see it in person with no clouds, because usually it's covered by clouds.
Yeah.
And I think our tour guide said that there is like I guess a myth where the goddess of the mountain
So she's really shy, and she only comes out, so the top of Mount Fuji, she only shows her face when there's like a cute gentleman or a cute guy or something. And Adam was like, "That's me." And I was like, but it turned out it was one of those things that you can never forget. And people had gone there 6, 7, 8 times, and they've never seen it. This was their first time.
Wow.
So that was really a treat for us.
So this was one of the other stops that the excursion brought us to. This is actually the shrine for the goddess of Mount Fuji.
Okay.
And we actually caught, so the 2 people in the front in full kimono garb, they're actually getting married.
Oh.
So we ended up going on an excursion and lucking out that we saw someone getting married at one of these shrines.
Nice.
There were actually 2 couples getting married that day.
Yes, there
And
was.
the other couple, she didn't have a red kimono on, she had a pure white kimono. But it's interesting to see the way that so for our weddings, we obviously have your photographer kind of just
Right.
follows you around. Both of these weddings had photographers, stylists, makeup artists, all on hand, just following them around the shrine, making sure that all the pictures were prim, proper, perfect. But that was really pretty to watch too.
Mm-hmm.
The black sand beach. This is where I wanted to go. This is the last stop on the excursion. They basically bring you to an old ancient pine forest, and the pine forest actually lets out onto this beach, and the sand on this beach is all black sand. I'm assuming from volcano.
Yes.
So this was actually really interesting because both of us have been to Los Angeles. We've seen the Pacific Ocean from stateside, but it's interesting seeing, you got to view the
right.
Pacific
Yes.
Ocean
On
from
the
the
other
opposite
side.
side.
Yes.
Wow.
I didn't want to leave there.
No, this one I had to drag him off the beach at some point, but it was stunning. And you can't see it in the photos, but in the back, it started getting hazy because the weather was changing. But at some point, you could see Mount Fuji from there.
Wow.
But by the time we got there at the end of our day, it was really hazy. You can get maybe just the outline of it. I don't even think you can really tell where it is. But it was one of those moments where you're like, wow, we are so tiny in this giant world.
It is actually in that picture. If you look center left, it's right where that tree line ends.
And there's a little.
You can see the little tiny bit of it getting
Yeah.
a little bit darker.
Yeah.
That's Mount Fuji.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's
There it is.
So that's why it's shocking to
This was
even
one
get
of
it in the daylight.
This is one of my favorite pictures because this is a shrine that's built for the goddess, and then you can literally see the mountain in the background. And And there's a little poster up in front that has all the different photos that have been taken of Mount Fuji. So this one was just like one of those, look at how clear the sky is.
Yeah.
This is the day that we have.
Yeah.
Look at this. That was one of those moments.
So Tokyo's the next stop.
So the last stop for us was Tokyo. Technically, it ports in Yokohama, and then we had 2 days being sold to us as Tokyo. But we didn't really have a plan for Tokyo either. It seems to be a common theme with our traveling. We don't really have major plans. But I know, so for me, when I go through Instagram and I see pictures of like Tokyo, everyone takes a picture of this street. And I just kind of wanted to follow suit.
Okay.
But I know that street is lined with like, I forgot what they're little tiny bars though.
Really?
So you can kind of go bar hopping really, really quickly. And they're so tiny that they only fit like 5 or 6 people at the bar. But it's just like natural that you just keep moving down, you know.
It's like a bar crawl.
Kind of, but like way easier.
Yeah.
This one was just, it's one of those buildings that like you kind of just don't see anywhere else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this, unfortunately, was like a little hazy that day, but and I think it ended up raining.
It was raining.
But we just wanted to take like a quick picture of just kind of some of the architecture that, you know, we're not used to seeing.
Yeah, it almost looks like a building inside of a building.
It does, right?
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
Oh, so this is like what would be considered Harajuku, which is kind of like that street that's very well known for like offbeat fashion and kind of like I would describe it as like a very like avant-garde style where this is where you would go. Here we also ended up eating some ramen, which ordering food in Japan is very interesting. It's kind of like
it was like a vending machine when you order like the old sodas and you would press like I want a Coke and push in the button. That's literally how it was, and then somebody would bring you out your food. They were playing old 90s music, so we were just grooving. They brought us like Jim Beam and Coke, which is, you know, different type of drink as well. And it was just a really great vibe where we were. It was one of those vibes that everybody was just relaxed and punching in the ramen that they wanted and kept it moving. And you didn't talk to anyone for the most part. You didn't have to say, okay, I need a number 3 with extra whatever. You can put it all in the punch machine, which is really cool.
Yeah, that makes it easy.
Oh, it was really easy. Oh, this was one of my, I feel like everything I want to do is silly. So this is one of my things. I wanted to go into a cat cafe. They're everywhere, and you literally pay to have coffee and love cats. I don't have a thing for cats. I just thought it was cool. I thought the cats would love me, but they only love you when you have treats.
Okay.
You have to wear slippers. They come all over you. You could tell Adam is really excited about the whole experience. And it was for me, it was just something quirky to do, you know? It was like the same thing as in Beijing. Like, I'm going to eat a tarantula. This was, I'm going to have coffee with cats. So.
Cat cafe.
Yeah, the cat cafe. There was like ones for Shiba Inus too, but the line was too long for that, so I wasn't going to do that. But
they have it for like everything too. There's
parrots.
We had saw dogs. There's one for parrots. There was one for owls.
Wow.
Yeah,
they have lots of cafes with animals. It's really interesting.
Unique.
For sure.
It's a kind of a cool experience. So this is the notorious Shinjuku crossing.
It's like 10 in Japan. There's 10 like roads, and there's so many crosswalks, and you have to attempt to cross them, but all of them intersect. So there's all these people, and you can tell like people are just kind of walking past each other. And they're going into other crosswalks. And at first we just were like, oh boy, let's go. And it's kind of hectic.
And this is just pedestrian traffic?
And this is just pedestrian traffic.
Oh my.
And not to mention that, this is at night.
Yeah.
This wasn't even during rush, like what would be considered like rush hour. And there's still so many people.
Wow.
We were bracing. We were like you could tell we weren't from there.
Yeah,
we didn't know how to walk through that. It was really interesting for sure.
And we're used to like New York Times Square where we were like, oh no, like we got this. And then we got there and we stood at the crosswalk and we're like, oh no, this is totally different. This is new.
That's so true.
And then we ended out our trip. We took the train back to Yokohama, and kind of for our last night, we wanted to kind of explore the port city, because public transportation does kind of shut down at like 12.
Okay.
So it's hard to like stay out longer than that unless you get a taxi. But on our last night, we had realized we never had sushi.
Oh no.
We never, like, we went all the way to Japan and didn't have any sushi. So we actually were just walking around downtown Yokohama for a while and came across this restaurant. And the reason this restaurant stands out to, I think, both of us is it's a family-owned restaurant. The mother is the hostess. The son works the sushi bar. The daughter's the waitress, and the dad cooks in the back.
Nice.
But we walked in, and they were so welcoming. The mother actually speaks perfect English, like American English. And we were very taken aback. And we were like, oh, did you like study English? And she goes, no. Oh, well, did you like go to the States and learn English? She goes, no. And we're like, how did you learn English? And like very great pronunciation. And she was like, I watched American television.
TV, yeah.
And we were like, you learned an entire language just by watching TV. And we were like blown away. We were like, no, it's amazing.
Yeah, the hospitality that was there was phenomenal. The food was great. It's one of those places where we say we have to go back no matter what.
Sake?
Yes. So they
Sake at her recommendation.
Yes, a beer. This was, I mean, they fill up the shot and then they had that, you could tell, like an overflow. Adam really liked it. There's an overflow. So not only do you finish a shot, but you have an extra shot.
Oh.
So it's almost like a double shot. And it's strong. I think it was 20.
When we sat down, she warned us when she handed it to us. She goes, no, just to give you a warning, sake is 25% alcohol.
Wow.
And we were like, oh yeah, okay, that'll be fine. It's
Yeah.
just like,
We're young. We can
we're
handle
young,
it.
we're
Yeah.
fine. We were in college. Like,
We made it out. Yeah.
we'll be fine. And then I remember we stood up and both of us like grabbed the chair and we're like, oh, she wasn't kidding.
Yeah, that was a great place to end our night. We ended up like going to karaoke after,
Oh,
walking
fun.
through the streets, and then just going back to the boat and just, finishing off our last night in Japan and our experience there. But I think that was a way to kind of bring full circle our whole trip, really.
Wow. It
Yeah.
sounds like you really had a great time, especially just winging it. You know, in your destinations, it was like you were able to see quite a bit and do quite a few things. What was on the whole trip? What was your most favorite part? Do you have one particular favorite part?
That's tough.
So for me, I would say it was when we were in Kyoto and we did the hike at 5 a.m. Although I was not happy to be up because
Right.
I'm not a morning person. When we got to the top and just that peace, that was having that moment there, being like, this is gorgeous.
Nice.
Also on the Great Wall, just meeting our friends there, and
yeah.
again, just being like, oh my goodness, like look at this. This
Yeah.
is incredible. And we got to bobsled down the mountain. So I mean, there's just so many things that happen, but those two I always can go back to and laugh and remember. And our night before our hike too, we just bought a bunch of 7-Eleven food and we're trying random things and didn't like anything, but it was for the experience, So, I mean, just getting outside of our comfort zone, I would say for me, on multiple different countries.
Yeah, I think for me, it was kind of all those little connections that you make. So like, even all the places that we went to, like when we went to Kyoto, I actually bought a traditional kimono for my mother, and the shop that we went to, the two girls were so nice, and it was interesting because we didn't really know how the language barrier was how kind of tough of a time we were gonna have with it. But even with the language barrier, these two girls were so helpful, so kind, and they really made sure that like what I was buying was what I wanted. And we even asked them later, like, oh, well, what's your favorite place as a local? What's your favorite place to get food? And those are kind of my favorite experiences. When I was on Jeju, when I was buying, some souvenirs for my mother, one of the things that I had bought was soju. And it was just nice asking the local woman, like, oh, well, what's your favorite? Like, what do you recommend? And also, I think going about that route, you kind of have that real local experience.
Great, great. Now, did you experience any kind of travel trauma, injuries, lost money, misconnections, anything along that line?
I think I'll talk about my trauma first before we go to the second one. I think it was a little bit more. So on top of seasickness, I got food poisoning. Not sure where, when, or how it happened, but it happened. I was on one of the days we were at sea, and I was just stuck in my room, completely sick, and on top of the boat moving. I remember at one point, Adam was like, "Are you coming to dinner?" And I'm like, "No, I'm definitely not coming to dinner." And I think I was almost out for like 2 full days, just sleeping in bed. Thank God it was a sea day. But I mean, it was really horrible. I was even texting my dad, like, I'm ready to come home now. And I think that was only at maybe port number 3 at that point, or 4.
Yeah.
So it was it was like right midway, and I was really sick. And by the time we got to Jeju Island, I just remember I had a 7-Up almost, but it was like a lime soda, and then I just was like, I want chicken nuggets and fries. But just being sick in a foreign country and just being uncomfortable and feeling awful, and I'm there to be with my friend and have an amazing time, but I'm sick. So that was really awful. But I mean, over time, yes, I got better, and yes, we had an amazing time regardless. But that's one of the part of our experiences where I never will forget that. That's one of those things.
For me, it's gonna sound silly, but for me, I didn't expect going to Beijing, China. I expected it to be like, it's a major city. I didn't think paying for things would be such a hassle. So one particular day, we actually were trying to get lunch. I had brought cash with me, but I didn't bring a ton of cash with me. I kind of just brought it for like the street vendors, the night market, just a few of those things. And I brought my credit card for the rest. I remember walking into a McDonald's and being turned away because they didn't take credit cards. We literally figured out on our last day that everyone was actually using an app to pay for everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's called WeChat. And basically, you're able to pay for things where like it generates a QR code and you scan it at the register, and that's how everyone was paying for things.
We had no idea for 3 days. We figured it out literally on our train ride home from college kids that happened to like think we were interesting and talk to us. So I mean, it was a crazy experience.
It was a solid half day where we were struggling to like
just get food
because we couldn't pay for it.
Wow.
There was no ATMs
Something you don't
anywhere.
think about.
Yeah, there was no ATMs because we were trying to find ATMs to at least take money out. After a certain time, they closed them down. So we were really frustrated. I think
because I normally recommend to my clients to bring some cash, but also bring the credit cards, because you get the best rate, the best exchange rate and stuff. So yeah, for larger purchases and stuff, use your credit card. So it's just like, wow, I
100% agree with that.
Wow,
Because we didn't have that problem in Korea and Japan, and actually we went to Korea after we went to Beijing, and I remember taking out my credit card and I was like, charge everything. I don't care what it is, charge it.
He was swipe happy, that's for sure.
But yeah, no, it was that was a very shocking and very jarring part of the experience for both of us.
And let's finish it up with as fabulous as this was. Is there anything that you would do different? If you were to do it all over again, is there anything that you would do different, or do you think things just laid out and played out just fine?
I think it's interesting. I think, and I'll speak for myself, I think that's interesting. Both of them. I think both are true. I do not think I would do a cruise again.
Okay.
That feeling of toe dipping was great for some places, awful for others.
Okay.
I wish I had more time in Seoul. I wish I'd had more than a day in Jeju Island. And conversely, like, I didn't think I needed as much time in Beijing.
Okay.
So I think if and when we go back, it'll just be a straight land only trip.
I can second that. I felt that for our first time, it was a great experience to try all these different countries, because now we know our next trip where we want to go. I know that we're very clear on what we want to do, the experiences we want to have. So I think the experience that we had on the boat and going to all the ports was absolutely perfect. Everything worked out to our favor, minus a few hiccups here or there.
Right.
But I think the next time we now know a little bit more. We know transportation. We understand a little bit more here and there what's expected in each country. So now the next time, I think we would do more land as opposed to a cruise through everything.
Yeah, they say a cruise is for tasting.
Yes.
And, you know, once you've tasted and know what you really want, then you go for the meal.
Yes,
and just spend the time.
Yes, I think that was the best part about the whole thing, is that we got to try a little bit, and now we're like, okay, we were hungry for more. You know, our appetizer's done. We're thinking about our next trip. So
Great.
yeah.
Well, I really want to thank both of you for sharing. And
Of course.
this has been a wonderful series. I've enjoyed your pictures and your stories. It sounds like you had a fabulous time.
We did.
And I'd like to thank you all for joining us. I hope you were equally as dazzled by all their experiences and their pictures. I know something like that is out of my wheelhouse, something that I don't think would ever be attainable for me, but who knows down the road. I do welcome your feedback and any comments or ideas for future shows. So please don't hesitate to contact me here through the studio or find me on Facebook under Bonnie's Travel. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again for tuning in, and safe travels. Bye-bye.